Hi, this is Lane Keller, and I have the pleasure today of talking with Lisa Taylor, whom you all know as Tank's co-host on the Speak Up with Tank and Lisa show. And now she's also hosting her own show called Living with Lisa. How are you today, Lisa?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here with you, Lane. It's just fun stuff. It's been about a year since I've been here, so we're finally like launching this officially, right? And so I'm really excited. It's really cool stuff. So thank you for doing this with me.
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure. Well, the day that you showed up on our doorstep, so to speak, with this amazing insurance plan to overhaul the national insurance program and get people fixed holistically, we were in love with you. And then when we got you on air with Tank, the two of you had such a synergy and connection that we're like, yes, this is a wonderful balance and a great partner to his on-air personality.
Oh, thank you. It's so funny you say that because yesterday I listened to the first show we ever did. We didn't even talk about insurance, maybe for like 30 seconds, but we had a 2-hour show and it was perfect. Like we just got, I'm like, I hadn't listened to that for a year, right? It's coming up on a year this month. So it was just so fun. I was supposed to come on for one show and I'm still here. So,
Well,
can't get rid of me.
we weren't going to we're not going to get rid of you, and we're still not going to get rid of you.
No, I can't get rid of me now. I'm stuck. You're stuck with me. So here I am.
Well, I don't know if people know the extent of what you do behind the scenes. I mean, you're not just Tank's co-host. You're doing a million things pertaining to create change and the projects and just keeping Speak Project running smoothly. And also, you're a healer. You heal. When you engage in the kind of work that we do, we are literally hit constantly with outside interference, let's say, whether it be in the form of electronic fooling around, as so many people know when they listen to our shows, right, that we're constantly being fooled with, or just energetically on a human level.
Yes, absolutely. We are being hit particularly hard right now. Just because it really has been, I think, the dark versus the light. And I believe that we have won, but there's still residual effects of that. So yes, I'm very aware of that. And I'm trying to help people as much as I can to get rid of that, because I remember going through what we call the ascension symptoms, right?
Yes.
I think we are all dealing with that to some degree. And I think we're actually going to do a show on that Thursday and you're going to be part of that. But I went through it heavily in 2011. And so, yes, we are heavily being attacked. So we want to help people understand what they're going through and help them to help get rid of that and eliminate some of that pain, physical pain, emotional pain, and negative energy and all the stuff that we're being attacked by.
And and you're in the background, well, not really in the background, but you're always fixing things energetically for us. In the beginning, we found out you were an energy healer, and it was like, oh, great, let's let Lisa fix
it. Yeah, and I love it though, because now I've gotten the pleasure of the last year to really connect with Shailea and Faye and some of the women that really work behind the scenes with Tank on a daily basis. And we work very closely together, and we just have become this amazing unit of love and divine feminine women who just really love each other, and we love each other's gifts. And we all are so different. I actually, on Friday, Saturday, I was having my own personal crisis, just a little, healing moment where I needed to be healed. And I'm so grateful that I was able to literally call Faye and say, okay, Faye, this is the emotion I'm feeling. I think I've been triggered,
Yes.
I'm very aware of my own. And I said, and I think it's really my junk coming up, and can you fix me? And within 30 minutes, and I felt like my heart was literally broken. Like I was so sad. And I was just being triggered by my own stuff. And she went in and said, yes, this emotion was, some of the stuff she found was like inherited from my dad. And it just, everything passes on, generationally if we don't heal it. Right. And so, and then there
Sure.
was some negative stuff kind of sent my way, and she found it, lifted it, and within 30 minutes, like literally, it was released. And so I want that for everyone. So that's, you know, I want everyone to have that opportunity to feel good and to be aware
Yeah.
of their stuff.
No, you just you said two very intriguing things. One is my favorite topics, which is the divine feminine.
Yes.
I
Yes.
would like to explore that, but you also mentioned the word triggered. And can you define that for the people who are listening? What you mean by
Yes.
triggered?
So trigger. So for example, for me, one of the triggers I'll just share, it's kind of personal, but I'll share it because I think it's important, is that I was raised in a family that was highly unhealthy, right? I mean, there was my
Mm.
dad, there was generations of abuse. With him and my mom had physical abuse. There was, you know, verbal, all that good stuff between them. And so there was generations of abuse and generations of addiction. So I kind of went the opposite way. You know, I don't drink much. I really kind of just was fearful of that and never really went there. But so when there's damage to us, we've been wounded emotionally or physically or in any way, there's a trigger. And so for me, there was something going on in my personal life that triggered the feeling of me not being loved, generally not feeling loved and feeling brokenhearted. And it was just a trigger where something happened to me that made that feel so painful and so real and so alive in that moment. But really, it was just my old wound that needed to be released. So I've been blessed that I can call on these amazing people in our network that do that for me, because I do that for other people, right? And so that was my trigger. I felt like crap, and so it got removed instantaneously, and I'm so grateful for
But we
that.
don't even know half the time that we are being triggered. I mean, the fact that you just even recognized that it was something from the past coming up
Yeah,
is,
I was able to say, look, I know it's me and I know, but most people don't even realize that you're right, that they are being triggered. And so when, yeah, I think when we feel awful, it's easy for us to blame the person who we think made us feel awful, right?
yes.
But if we really ask our, what I call our higher self, really go deep inside and say, look, is it really this person out to hurt me? Or is it my own junk that maybe this is a familiar wound? And coming from energy healing, the thing that I have seen in my own family, and is, you know, why I probably got into healing, is I saw a lot of things being redone, in generations. People, it's like you hear about the abused woman who leaves her husband because she's being abused, and she finds another husband that will abuse her. You know, we go to what's comfortable and familiar, whether it's good or
Or,
bad.
or leaves an abusive parent to go into the
Yes.
same relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then their children see the same thing and they find the same thing because that's comfortable and familiar. Even though it's not good for us, we don't know how to operate outside of that. And so true healing says, okay, I need to choose something differently. And also to really ask ourselves, when is it really somebody trying to hurt us, or is it really our own stuff that just hasn't been removed or healed? And when we can access that and know that, I think that's when we can get to the bottom of releasing our stuff. And we all have it, right? I was born into it generationally. There's so many ways that we get our wounds. There are wounds you can take on from just your, what I call our generational junk. Just like if you have blue eyes, that, you know, it's recessive in your family, so is addiction, or so is abuse, or so is suicide, or, you know, disease. All of these things just follow us generationally until we heal them. And so if we could find a way to get to that point, I think it's really important that we do. And, you know, you can also, you know, adapt your own stuff in this life. So we create our own story, so to speak, right?
Yes, we do.
And then that's our own self-made stuff. But then, you know, I had a major event happen when my mom was pregnant of me. So we can also absorb things in the womb. And just to give people an idea of what that would look like, maybe a generation or two ago, it was not very common for a woman to become pregnant out of wedlock. It was shameful, and, you know, the family was, you know, it was just a bad
And
thing. It was considered
especially
bad.
a Latin family like
Oh
yours, it's
yeah, I came
really
from a
bad.
Latin family. You just don't do that. And so often what would happen in that time frame is that a woman would become pregnant and her family was so, you know, shameful for her. They would say, oh, we sent her off to France to go to school. And really what they sent her to is an unwed mother's home where they would take her baby at birth, right?
Sure.
Uh, and
Absolutely.
so what happens in that space is she feels shameful and abandoned, right?
Mhm.
And so that baby absorbs the emotions in the womb of shame and abandonment. So
Well, excuse me for interjecting one quick second, but
yeah,
they find that a lot of suicide attempts, if you trace it back, that those go right back to the room. Excuse me, right back to emotional wounds in the womb. And
yes,
there was one case that I had run across where somebody had found that the mother had tried to abort on that day.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
Multiple years previously, and that's why the suicide came up at that time.
I
So,
have found that with when in my healing work with people. So I have actually found where I have, people were in my office doing healing work, and I would say, "Were you adopted?" And because I don't know, I'm just working on them, and they would go home and say, ask their parents, yes, they didn't even know they were adopted, right?
wow.
But it came up in the healing and the time and the person. So going back to that poor baby, right? So now the mother feels shame and abandonment. That baby is born with the emotions of shame and abandonment, and so
Mm.
what that baby does is it keeps looking for people in its life to repeat that until they know, because that's what's comfortable and familiar. So they will keep finding relationships where they feel shameful and abandoned until they heal it. And some people never heal it. So they just keep repeating that stuff forever.
So, can you address that in in the energetic healing work that you do? Can you
Yes, absolutely.
eradicate that? How do you do that?
So for me, I mean, we all are, in our group we have so many different types of healing, but for me, when I did healing work, the way I identify it, and this really isn't for me, I can identify where it came from. Did it come from generations? Did it come from did we adapt it in the womb? Did it come in this lifetime? Whatever it is, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't matter where it came from, but we can, because I think in doing so, the person that you're working with can relate to it, because I have told people many things that they didn't necessarily ever really admit or really connect the dots for, so to speak. So
Mm.
in that, so I can tell, I can target it to a time, a person, and say, okay, when you were, I could say, okay, at 7 years old, you have felt abandoned, so to speak, and or whatever, and they'll say, yes, that's when my parents got divorced,
Oh,
right?
that's amazing that you can isolate it like that.
And then yes, and then in that you can actually I have 2 or 3 different heal modalities that I use on people, um, and in that space you can actually release the trauma associated with it, because what I would do when I met with clients is I would literally take their medical, their events in their life. I would say, okay, what major illnesses have you had, at what age, and then or what traumatic events did you have, right? And then everything that they told me, I would write it down, and by the end of the session, as I finished the healing, I would be able to say, okay, this was your traumatic event, and this is when you got sick. So for example, that 7-year-old that felt abandoned when their parents got divorced may have developed an illness at age 8.
Hmm.
And if we all look at that, like when did we get sick versus when did we have this event, that's typically they coincide. So yes.
That's really wonderful. And then you'll apply an energetic form of healing to that
Yes.
situation.
Yeah. So what I do, what my style is that I release all the junk first. And then I'm a believer that you don't leave an empty space, because, things can get in that space. And then I fill that space with the unconditional love of our creator, and peace and serenity. And I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, I did 5 or 10 years of counseling, but
Wow.
what you did for me in 2 hours, I feel amazing. And what that really means energetically is that sometimes we just keep telling our story, right? And so in that, we keep the energy of that wound alive, when really we want to release the energy of it so that we can be free and tell a new story, because we need to let it go, but we keep telling our same wounded story, which just keeps the energy of that open, right? And growing. It just adds on to it every time you tell it.
Oh, absolutely. And if it's when the patterns repeat themselves, they just get worse and worse and worse.
Yes, absolutely.
Unless you address them. I for one don't like karma, so I know that if I don't address something right then and there, it's going to come back to me. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And we're blessed in our who we are. You have come from an amazing gifted spiritual family, and I didn't, right? I had to learn all of this stuff the hard way, right? But we're so fortunate now to have our tribe of amazing healers and people, and we are very easily aware of our junk and our triggers and things, but the masses are not. And one of the reasons I came to Speak Project was to change that. I want that type of healing to be available to everybody, and the healing I do, one of them, you can actually teach it to a 4-year-old.
Wow. Can you tell us?
Yes. So one of the healings that this is amazing. So I'm just going to share a little history. So I came, as I said, from a family that really was just a tragedy. I had a tragic childhood.
Mm.
And I came from a very third dimensional family. So they didn't see me, right? My mom said I came out asking questions. I had a voice. I wanted to know what was the bigger meaning of life, and they couldn't answer me. So I was like the alien in the family, right? They just
That
went about their
that
business.
in itself is tragic, to have a child with so many questions who's not getting answers.
Right. And I was always very intuitive, but I didn't know I was intuitive. I just knew things that I knew, and I didn't know how I knew them, but I just knew them to be true, right? And my family looked at me like I was nuts. And honestly, I felt very isolated most of my life and very alone because I had a lot of friends, but
Yeah.
there weren't a lot of people that I could really delve into on the deeper things. So I was often bored, or often felt like I would go to a party in high school with my friends and be like, okay, I just want to go home. They're just so dumb, right? Because they would be drinking and I'd be like, can't we talk about bigger things in life? can't we can't we like talk about the things that really matter, right? And so I couldn't connect on a deeper level, right?
Yeah, that would
So
go over really well at the beer frat party.
yeah, it just wasn't my thing, right? I wanted to solve the world's problems, right?
Yes.
So I came from that. And so when I wanted more. I'm sorry, I went back to what was your original question. I kind of lost track there.
Well, that's all right, because this is really interesting about how you came to the healing. But I had asked you what that
Oh,
method,
right.
the method was that a 4-year-old could learn.
Oh, right. And so because of my tragic family, I married somebody who unfortunately had very similar qualities to my family. And I had,
Mm-hmm.
and I had my child, a child with him. It was my daughter. So my ex-husband, just had very similar qualities. So I was married, and it was a tragic marriage, and I've been divorced for a long time now, but pretty much ended up raising my daughter primarily alone, and at least certainly energetically and financially alone. And I kind of was everything, mom, dad, and disciplinarian, and all of that. And so I looked at my life, and I said, when I got divorced, I said, I will never get married again until these things happen. I had like qualifications, right? The first thing I said is I will never get married again or redo this until I learn how to heal my generational junk so that my daughter does not take this on. That was like my life mission, right? I
Wow.
wanted to stop the generational junk. And so I told myself, I will never get married. She was about 9. I said, I will not get married till she's 18, if I ever do, right? At that point, I just wasn't in my realm. And if I ever did, it was going to be a man who was going to be an amazing example of a husband and a father. And so I just didn't do it. I was engaged once and backed out and said, no, he's not that. Right. And so my life mission really, my daughter's in her 20s now and grown, but was that she would be aware of her, of her family history and change it. And she's amazing, and she's not married yet, and she's at that age where she wants to get married and have a family. But she's so aware and so healthy, even though her dad wasn't maybe the healthiest person, right? She's
Right.
overcome it all. And she's overcome it all, and she's this amazing human being. And that really has been my mission for the last 20 years since I've been on my own, raised her on my own. And she's been, she's raised now and gone, but that was really why I came to this, was to heal that stuff for me and ultimately for her and my future generations.
Well, so that brings up the old argument that is the villain really a villain because that situation caused you to evolve and quite dramatically and in a brilliant way. Not so many people will go back to heal generational heart the way you did. So that's pretty heroic and very, very evolved. So you kind of have to thank your parents,
Yes.
for being the impetus. They may have come into this life in order to bring you to help kick you into this position. You know what I mean?
Oh, it was brutal. But yeah, no, they did. It was absolutely a tragic, brutal existence. But honestly, I would not change it for the world ever, because I seriously, and people say this, it sounds so cliche, but I would certainly not be who I am today. I would not have discovered my strengths and my gifts. And, there were times I was, a day away from being homeless or not having food for my daughter, but it was so amazing that I learned who I was. And I got to heal from a lot of stuff. We're all forever healing, right? We're forever changing and growing and getting to a higher level. But I am so grateful for my tragedies, because they have certainly allowed me to grow, and then in return help other people to do the same. And that's really what I want for everybody, is the ability and the knowledge and awareness to do that. So one of those healings you really can teach a 4-year-old to teach it to a 4-year-old. So a 4-year-old can learn how to heal herself, her animal, her family, her friends. And so wouldn't that be incredible?
Yes, that's amazing.
So that's my goal, is that we all learn how to just tap into that and help each other rise above it.
So you were, you were supporting a daughter and on your own, and I know you worked in the insurance field, which is part of the reason why you came to this holistic insurance program that you're creating. Yeah. But how did you make the leap into actually healing people?
Good question. So in the year my daughter left for college, she turned 18. I got engaged, just like I said I would. I said I would until she was 18. I got engaged. Literally, had just gone over the financial bubble. I was doing well, selling insurance, and I was good at it. I did investment grade life insurance and that kind of thing. Did really well, but I really didn't love it, Lane. Like, it was just, I was good. I could sell, I could make a lot of money, but I was like, I just want something more meaningful. So I literally packed up my life. Right when she left for college, the same time she was leaving, I went up to the Bay Area in California, was engaged, and literally got my heart broken. Like a month later, I realized that it was the biggest mistake I could have made if I had done it at that time for me. And I was genuinely crushed. I didn't know a soul there. I'd sold everything I owned, didn't have a job, and just realized that I had to figure out, like, my daughter had just left for college. Like, I was an empty nester. Like, all this stuff had shifted in my life all at one time, which is probably, outside of my divorce, the darkest time of my life, right? It just was a harsh time for me.
Yes.
And in that, I just grieved. And in that, I was there for about 3-4 months. I moved out. I got my own place. Didn't even know I had to take a map to the gym. I didn't even know where I lived. Like, it was that ridiculous, right? And I made some friends rather quickly. But in that time I was there, I literally would just, what I call downloads. I would get downloads from God, from our Creator.
Oh.
And he said to me, "You're supposed to go back to Southern California. You're supposed to write a book and be a healer." And so I did. Packed up one day, said, I'm going to California. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. I was able to, like, I don't know how I did it. I just scraped by on fumes. And I called a girl I knew, and she said, "I have an event coming up. Do you want to be one of our speakers?" And I had the ability of reading a healing book and turning it into a healing session for a client. So I read these 3 healing books, and those became my modalities. And I opened an office, started healing and speaking, and that's how it all began. Literally, it happened overnight.
It's really, really remarkable. That's not something you hear every day. I mean, even the fact that you recognized the creator's voice or source's voice, that's so exciting in and of itself. And then that you followed it with no money.
No
Yeah, that's
money, no plan. And, I did that again later, recently in the last few years of my life. I follow, and this is one of the things I want to share with people is your gut instinct. I call it your God instinct. And I feel like we get those messages. We have to really, really hear them, honor them, and not doubt them.
Mm.
Because it may not be like exactly, we may not know what the outcome looks like, and it's a true leap of faith, but I have been on the brink of complete, so many harsh things, like so many times, and it never fails that the decisions that I followed somehow our creator provides, because I have followed those things when I really did not know, and it was a scary, scary thing to do, and I did it anyway.
So for the people who are listening, how did you know it was the creator's voice? How did you, or your higher self, or whomever, it was, how did you know to listen to it? I mean, what form did it come in?
For me, it's just a knowing. I literally, I don't really meditate much. It's usually when I'm in a quiet space, though. Usually I'm laying in bed or I'm in the shower, but usually I'm just laying in bed and I just get a message. And it's like it downloads into my brain. And it's not in words. Occasionally I'll get a quick vision, but I'm more empathic. So I feel things. I can, because you and I are connected. If you have a sorrow or a loss, I feel your loss like it's in my body.
Yeah,
right?
like that time you called me and you said, "What's the matter?" And I said,
Yes.
I'm so unfocused today. I can't figure it out. Why can't I get my brain to settle down on, and accomplishing one thing? And she said, "Oh, I'll be right back."
And I went in and you're like, okay, thanks. I feel better, because the people that I love or that I'm connected to in any way, I have the ability to connect and feel them. And when I did healing work, I would feel my clients for 2 weeks after. I could feel all their emotion. And sometimes it wasn't good. I was self-taught. So I had to learn the hard way, like, okay, ground and disconnect and don't take on their stuff. Just be, the middle person to help them release it. But for me, it's just a knowing. And I think we all have it. And I think that we are not taught, not in this lifetime or not in this generation, the last 2 generations or so, we are not taught to honor what we call our spiritual gifts, right? But if you go back just 100 years ago to like the Native Americans and the medicine wheel and the Asians and, the East Indians, they are all taught to honor their intuitive gifts, so to speak. In America, we're not, right? And
we're so backwards that way.
yeah, and our pineal gland is calcified because of fluoride, which opens up our third eye and allows us to see and feel and do the things. And so I would ask people, like, to really honor when you get your gut instinct or your God instinct, to really question, like, is this really what's best for me? And I think if you ask what I call your higher self, just go in and have a conversation with yourself and say, is this really my truth? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And there's different ways to learn that. You can learn how to muscle test. You can do all the, kinesiology. If you really need verification, I did that for clients when I worked on them. But really, ultimately, for me, I just know, and I never question it. And and it's scary at times. It has been very scary because I don't know what the outcome is. I just go with it. And it works out.
I second that. Absolutely. Dive in fully with no rational, people would think there's no rational thought behind it because it appears to them that way, but it's actually the opposite. Is when you're in touch with this inner guidance system, or whether it's source or your higher self or your guides, spiritual guides, when you are acting fully and faithfully and the communication lines are set up, there's no looking back. You just operate from an instinctual place.
Yes, you just know. And I think we just needed to learn how to develop those gifts, because that truly is when we can develop our gifts and teach it to our families and our children and our grandchildren, that's how we really serve each other. And that's how we live in our highest space. Because let's face it, we live in a world that's fake,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
How people measure success and happiness, it's, you know, credit scores and finances. At the end of the day, how happy is America? How happy? I mean, there's third world countries you go to where they're dirt poor and they're far happier than we are, and they have far less, right? Because it's a different society of family and you know, things that we have not been taught in this country. And so we need to develop those gifts, just if nothing else, to honor our creator and to be truly feel truly happy and peaceful and joyful, because I think joy is missing from our
Oh my
society.
goodness. Boy, you really nailed that one. Yes, indeed. We are missing joy. We're missing the
Yes.
true happiness that comes from family and friends and community living, which
Yes.
has been eradicated from our society, I will say deliberately. Um,
Yes.
it has been, and we can prove it. It's a social engineering program. But
Yes.
the point is that these small villages, let's say in India or elsewhere, are just being with family and their
Hmm.
and their friends. I mean, when they have a wedding, the
The
village
whole
just
village comes,
the
right?
entire village comes, and everyone from around the village comes, and they all partake. That is joy, and they all
Yes.
bring food. No one
Yes.
cares what kind of venue it is or view it has, or the flower arrangements. This is all contrived. We don't
Yes.
need this.
Yes, it's same thing like you go to Mexico or South America and they're poverty-stricken places, but you give the kids a ball and they play in the streets for hours and they're joyful and they're laughing and they share what they do have, even though it's less than any of us have, right? Their natural
Exactly.
instinct is to share. And if we learn that and we learned how to help each other overcome our grief and our sadness, I just think our society and some of it's good, right? We fly around, but you know, my daughter lives in the Midwest, right? And she's like,
Oh,
Mom, I got to get close to you. When I start having babies, I need to be near you. And that's, you know, I came from a Latin family, so our culture is very strong and very family oriented. And she, thank God, she feels that. But how many people don't have, you know, we used to be broken up into communities, even by culture, right? And so that's broken up. And we need to get, I think we need to get some of that back, spend less time on social media and real FaceTime socializing with the people that we love, right?
well, yeah, and I do think that people are lost. I think they're finding themselves again. We are all finding ourselves again in this epidemic of fear or lack, this pandemic that we're in. And
Right.
because we haven't known how to operate as a society without a phone in our hands or a computer in front of our face. So
Yes.
it's interesting that people are to some degree finding family again, playing games, even if they're recording themselves making dances up. That's still okay.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
along the right lines, right? It's joyful, it's
Yes.
participatory, so that's good. So I do think people have forgotten who they are inside. They've become so disconnected from it, that this pandemic serves on a lot of different levels, aside from the obvious bad ones. There's some good stuff going on too.
Yes, there's awakening. And I think we got so caught up in how to be politically correct. You know, who cares if we're politically correct if we're all dead? You know, we're all dumbed down by vaccines or food or fluoride. It doesn't matter. Like what really truly matters is how are we connecting from our hearts to each other at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, what brings us joy? Friendship and love and touch. You know, we need human touch, we need
Mm.
family, we need friendship, we need community, we need to know that we're safe, that we're healthy. I mean, what better legacy to leave to your family than they're healthy and they're abundant, and abundance just isn't just finances. It's just one spoke in the wheel, right, so to speak.
That's so true. Yeah.
We need to have abundance in love, abundance in family, abundance in our finances. We need to feel safe. We need to be healthy. We need to have good food and water in our systems. We need to develop our gifts because we are able to really connect and love and feel. At the end of the day, what else matters?
Not a lot. And when,
No.
well, the thing is that we have over the quote unquote elite is that we've learned how to exist with very, very little. And we've, on a certain level, many of us have come to understand what is truly valuable.
Yes.
And we don't need all the accoutrement that they have. We don't need their jet skis, although that's nice. I like jet skis.
Yeah, they're fun. It's all fun,
Yeah,
and
I like it. No, no question about it.
it,
But
it it's fun. But and you know, I tell this to Tank. I've said this to him on air many times. Is that we they have done so little with so much, and we have done so much with so little.
mhm.
And so if we had if we had a tenth of what they've been given, we would turn it into
Yes,
gold for society. And I don't mean gold just financial. I mean gold for life.
yes,
For
we would.
because really it means that you have more time. If we all had abundance, we would have more, at the end of the day, we would have more time with our loved ones, right? We wouldn't require two parents to raise a child or to be working to, you know, that child, one of them could actually stay home and if they wanted to and
Mhm.
spend time with their family and develop their home or have a garden or play outside or teach their children their values, not the values of society, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what we leave is our children and our grandchildren and what we taught them and how we love them, right? And the great human beings they grow up to be.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Investing in humans is the best investment we could ever make.
and the natural instinct of a mom to stay home with her child
Oh,
is, I mean, when many women have babies, they realize they can't go back to work or it tears them up. You know, that it really destroys them to have to come back. That is the natural instinct. And we've been told, though, it's not cool. It's not, you know, you're not valuable as a mother. You're not, if you're not like running a company or whatever you might be doing, then you're not valuable. Well, it's exactly the opposite. What do your instincts tell you? They say stay home with that kid.
yeah,
Usually.
yes, yeah, and some women can't. They say I can't be home, and then they you know that's okay,
Yes,
but
it is okay.
it is okay. But it is really, I know this is just me, and maybe it's my culture, the fact that I'm Latin, I don't know, but I believe that a woman, her highest place in life is her femininity, whether she's running a company or she's at home with her children or she's spending time with her mate, you know, her husband, is that her highest place is to share that love and feminine. I think when a woman is truly feminine in her best power, that's intoxicating to men, women, a dog, it doesn't matter, because that energy of that. And I personally choose not to compete with men. I choose to
Interesting.
believe
Very good. Yes.
that I hopefully I bring something to them, and in return they bring something back to me, and we collaborate and we complement one another. But I don't want to compete with a man, because I know that at the end of the day, when the house is on fire, he's stronger than me, and
Mm-hmm.
I want him to be right. I want
Oh,
him
yes.
I want him to be stronger and bigger and protect me and love me and provide. And I don't mean just financially. I just mean provide safety and love and all the things that matter. And
Well, they have,
that's my
who,
greatest space.
who's going to take the bugs outside?
Right. Right.
That's
Who's gonna
our
I mean,
job.
I have a gun, but at the end of the day, you know, if someone's breaking in the back door, I want him to go. I'll stand behind him with my gun,
Oh,
but I want him to go
completely.
first.
So, so it
So
seems we've landed on the divine feminine here. Like
yes.
in a roundabout way, we've come right back. So how do you define the divine feminine?
Define it.
Well, what is it to you?
To me, it's completely and totally connecting with source, because in that space for me, he shows me the softer side of me, and that it's okay to be soft and vulnerable and sweet and kind and loving and sharing, because that's how I'm just naturally wired, is to love other people. And in doing that, I'm stronger, I'm not weaker. And I think in that love, it makes a man better, to me.
I agree. Now, what about women who have gone into the workplace and have tried to, this goes to your don't compete with men idea, that who go into the workplace And in order to rise in the ranks, they've taken on the worst male characteristics.
I think it's a shame because I personally, I'm very feminine. So if I do a speaking engagement or a business meeting, I always wear a dress. That's just me. I have long hair, right? I'm girly. I'm in that way. I'm kind of feminine, but I think if I'm standing in a business meeting and I'm speaking in front of 100 men, I still want to be the feminine energy because I think that that's still where my power is. I don't need to look like a man, dress like a man, act like a man, or compete with a man, because in my true femininity, I am in my best, highest place. And that is my most empowered state I can be in. And men recognize that and appreciate that because I think at the end of the day, we want the opposite of ourselves.
That is really a brilliant point. I so agree. And I
And it's
so agree
balance,
with
balance,
being where we
right?
need to balance. The male energy has run amok. And I am not one of those crazy liberals who think men are bad. I happen to love men. I think men are awesome.
Me too.
Yes, but I do think that the negative male energy has been running amok for too long, and it really needs this feminine energy, which is, and I know we're probably treading on things that are very politically incorrect right now, and I don't care.
I don't either. It's okay. That means we're on target.
Yes, exactly. That female energy needs to balance. That's the mothering, the nurturing, the loving, the unconditional loving.
The receptive, we're even designed.
Receptive.
Men are designed to receive, women are designed, built to receive men. So it's this, we receive them, and in that they give us back, right? They give us back children, they give us back strength, and by being in that most empowered state of a feminine, we empower the masculine.
Most certainly we do. And they empower us.
They give
allow
it right
us.
back. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we have to make clear that we are two very strong women right now because we're not pansies, we're not pushovers, we don't let anyone get the best of us. But by the same token, we're not afraid to be women.
Right.
And now we're talking about this whole, gender argument that's going on right now, and what is gender, and can you choose your own gender, and what do you feel about all that?
Okay, I think that's almost an entire other show, but I will touch on this.
Well, next show.
Next show. This is what I really believe. And it's funny because I told you I listened to my first show I ever did with Tank, which was a year ago. And we got into a 2-hour conversation. And this is what I believe has happened over the last 50 years. I think it's so subtle that they emasculate men. And I think that happened first. And so the women have had to rise up because the men haven't been complete men in many ways. Not all men, because there are men that are wonderful. Mm-hmm. But how they've taken us down, and it's so subtle that that men don't even know that they're not the full men they would have been. And so they do that with fluoride. They do that with GMOs in our food, too much estrogen. Men have more man boobs than they've ever had. They're more emotional. They don't fight up. They don't stand up for their families, for their country. I have a friend here that lives in Idaho, and he's like, I said, where did all the men go? And he says, they all died in the war, right? That's kind of our joke. But men need to be aware that they don't even know. And there's probably young men, boys, I see it every day when I go out in public, at the grocery stores, at restaurants, that I think that our men are underdeveloped. And I think it starts right now with our children. They're being born into GMO food. They're being born into all this stuff that is designed to make them not men anymore. And we need to know what that is, how to counteract it, how to bring it back, because at the end of the day, I will tell you from my perspective and the women that I know, my community, we want men back. And
yes, we do.
And we want to step down and be allowed to be the feminine, empowered women the women that we are. But women have had to step up because men have stepped down.
Yes. And you're right. There has been an assault on masculinity and an assault on femininity. And you're right. We're treading on, we need another show for this. But there's been an assault on both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And we can go into that in much greater depth. But suffice to say that no one's really been given the freedom to act in their full power. And I wish that men would become men again. Some have, and a lot of, it's interesting that as men get older, they do realize what's happened, and they are trying to embrace that. I've seen that. That's happening more and more, and they are also appreciating the feminine woman.
Yes,
You know?
I think men at the end of the day love the feminine women, and they pull from that, and I think it really does make them better and stronger because they count on that from us, right? I think you and I and maybe Tank should do a whole nother show. I'd love to have maybe we'll get Josh on, do like 2 men, 2 women, right?
Oh
Would
yes,
that be
that'd
like
be
almost like or a panel type thing, and say, okay, and then also teach people, like we can ask questions, and then maybe the other half of the show we do like, okay, how do we reverse this? What do we have so that men know how to reverse the fact that they've been emasculated? I mean, physically, like internally, like, too much estrogen, what do we do to reverse it? And same for women, is how do we let them step down and be women, and have men rise up and be men, and find that happy balance? Because I think our society would be so much better, just happier and more joyful. And our children would be happier and not confused, because they are trying to confuse our children with gender selection.
Yes, and I just want to reinforce that what I mean here about divine femininity does not mean weakness by any means, or adopting traditional roles like we had in the 50s of an apron and a wooden spoon in our hand. No. We're talking about the nurturing, unconditional loving, which belongs to all sexes.
Right.
We're talking about the ability to be soft,
Mm-hmm.
and to offer a soft place to land for somebody.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of other qualities as well, but we're not talking about traditional role stereotypes at all.
No, and we're also saying that at the end of the day, we are created by our Creator, and He did not create men to have children. So no matter how you slice it, at the end of the day, women are designed to have babies. So in that space, men have to come in to support that, right? And so we have to be able to fall back and just be a mom at moments, or just be the woman, or just have someone protect us and love us, because we're busy literally giving birth and nurturing a child into a human, into an amazing adult.
Exactly. So, Lisa, I know we're closing in on the end of the hour here, and I just wanted to, you live in a very intriguing, magical, spiritual place in the Northwest.
I do.
So you've sent so many beautiful pictures, and I know it's very God, it's like connected to the God source there.
Yes.
So how did you end up there?
Oh, good question. So I think I shared with you earlier my tragic heartbreak story when my daughter left for college. And then about 3.5 years ago, I was in California. I had been off and I'd gone in and out of insurance, in and out of healing. And I was making great money. Had a big account. Actually, LA County was one of my accounts. I would drive to LA 3 days a week. And I absolutely hated it. I said, I'm making money. I should be thrilled. I have a successful business, but my soul felt empty. So I woke up one day and I said, I'm supposed to move away. And it was a calling. And I had seen visions of healing centers. I had written a book 10 years prior saying I wanted to have a healing center in San Diego to help the vets. And in my mind, I had seen like a retreat where people would come to get healed. And I saw trees and water, and I saw beauty that I didn't have in I lived at the beach. I lived in Southern California. It was beautiful, but it was 1 million people in my city. There was traffic. It was a harsher life for me. My spirit was overcome by the traffic, the people, the fakeness, all the things that transpired. And my spirit was just saying, move. So I literally spent one summer. I checked out different parts of the Northwest. I found one. I came back, checked it out a second time, and literally went home, gave a 30-day notice on everything, sold most of my stuff, moved across the state by myself, without a job, without knowing anyone, and just said, I'm supposed to be there. And so I came, and here I am. And then I took a year off without any income, just because I got hooked in the following this whole RV politics. And I followed.
No. Not that. Sorry. Go ahead.
I followed my gut, and everyone's like, what are you doing? You have to work. You have no money. I said, and it's okay. And I said, I don't know. I just know I'm supposed to do this. And I did. I was following 100 people and then 50 and then 20. And then I landed upon Tank. And I followed him for months. I watched every show him and Dan ever did. And this is how it all happened. I called him and I said, I'm supposed to call him. And I literally had like one day, it was like, I remember I spent the whole night crying and I didn't know why. And I was just having this big emotional upheaval release. Called Tank the next day and I said, you don't know me, but I've been following you. And you and Dan do the show every night, but you never talk about wellness and you never talk about healing. And that's the missing link. So I'm going to do a spin-off of your show once a week and you're going to be my first guest. And that's what I'm going to do. And he said, oh my God. And he, Tank has the amazing ability to recognize your gifts and through just hearing you on the phone or talking to you. And, the first thing he said to me was, I know you. You are familiar. We have known each other in past lives. And I said, okay, I didn't care about that. I just wanted, he's like, and you're supposed to be my insurance revamp healer type, wellness person. I said, okay, let's do this. So he said, you know what? Don't do a show. Come on my show. We'll just have a great time. And I was supposed to come on for one show. And here I am in the Northwest, ready to build a wellness center because God called me here and I followed. And I took a year and a half out without pay so I could follow Tank. And I have been here ever since. And that's how I ended up in the Northwest. And that's how I ended up upon Speak Project.
And let's just add that not only are you building that insurance program, but you're putting together wellness centers. You'll start obviously in the Northwest, but you're going to be expanding from there. And you're putting together resources, a holistic directory of resources, correct?
Yes, I'm going to probably be starting my own line of products just because people ask me all the time, like, what do you do to be healthy, right? And so it's just important that people, and I don't ever recommend anything I've never tried. That's just my motto in life. I've always been that way. And so I'm really big on giving people what works for me. It may not work for them because I think our bodies are all different and we all require a little bit of a different recipe, but what works for me is what I like to share with the world. And so that's what I do.
That's awesome. Well, Lisa Taylor, thank you so much for everything you do and for raising our vibration every single day and for being the embodiment of the divine feminine and for being our healer and everything else. We really love you.
I love you. I love the Keller family. I want to be adopted anytime you guys will take me.
It's done.
And thank you for just being you. You're one of my favorite people. And I'm thankful. Thank you for doing this for me and with me. And I think we're going to be doing more because I had so much fun. Really. There's so many shows that popped up just within this hour of all the things we should be doing, other things we should be talking about. So let's do it, girl.
I think we're going to bring femininity back, aren't we?
Yes, I can't wait. And masculinity. I can't wait for that too.
And masculine, absolutely. 100%. All right. Everyone have a great day, night, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. We love you.
We love you. Thank you, Lane. I love you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.